learned today that the Department of Justice is rejecting FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe's appeal to avoid the idea that he would be charged criminally. This rejection could pave the way for the Department of Justice to indict McCabe for allegedly misleading federal investigators about his role in the FBI, providing information to a journalist about the Bureau's investigation into the Clinton Foundation in 2016. McCabe, of course, is the one who authorized the FBI to investigate President Trump and has long been a target, personally, of Mr. Trump's derision. Joining me now is MSNBC legal analyst and Lawfare Editor-in-Chief Ben Wittes. Before we get to the legal process here of the rejection, he was trying to avoid a criminal charge, or whether the Department of Justice is trying to indict him, what he's being charged with, what is the history of this charge being used to indict law enforcement officers over the years? So,
there is nothing unusual about charging somebody with false statements.
Yep.
There is something highly unusual about charging somebody criminally with false statements in the context of an internal disciplinary investigation. And that sort of thing is almost always dealt with as an internal disciplinary matter. And Andy McCabe was fired for it. There was an IG report, and then the FBI fired him. And so normally that would kind of be the end of it. There's a very, very long history of internal Justice Department investigations of gross misconduct where people lie, and they don't tend to end up in criminal cases.
All right, let's talk about why Andy McCabe's in the news today. All right, there was all sorts of speculation when the morning began and last night, and perhaps it's Justice Department gossip, whatever you want to call it, that an Andy McCabe indictment was coming. Here's what the Washington Post reported earlier this afternoon, because nothing came about, but the grand jury did meet. The notification comes as a federal grand jury investigating McCabe was suddenly recalled this week after a months-long hiatus. It was an indication its members will likely be asked soon to consider bringing charges. But the panel was let go Thursday with no immediate signs of an indictment, a sign they might have balked, been asked to return later, or filed a determination under seal. It was surprising to somebody else I spoke to that they met and returned with nothing. And the immediate speculation was, oh, my God, did they reject DOJ? How do you read this?
Well, so there's only three possibilities, and you just read them from the Washington Post.
Right.
One is that there was some kind of snag, and they're coming back, and they'll do it later. The second is they did something under seal. And the third possibility is, which is the
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.